Hi, everyone, and welcome to our cybersecurity office hours. Today is Wednesday, October 10th. We are very excited to have a couple participants here today watching us live, and then also I'm sure many students will be watching this recording later. So first of all, I want to welcome you and say thank you for joining. Really quick, my name is Molly, and I'm actually a student advisor with Springboard. Hallie, who is our student advisor for our cybersecurity course, is unable to take this call today, so I will be joining in. I'm our student advisor for Introduction to Data Science, Intermediate Data Science, and Business Analytics. So there might be a small amount of crossover between the two topics, but I'm kind of here to moderate today and help with any questions regarding course logistics. But otherwise, our main host today is Rich. So Rich, if you would like to give yourself an introduction for those of us who might not know you just yet.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Rich Shatina. I'm a mentor in the Intro to Cybersecurity course, as well as the community manager for Slack for Cybersecurity, and also office hours host every week. So I've been with Springboard's the cybersecurity program started back in May, so it's been a fun journey. If you know anything about my background, I've been in cybersecurity for full time. Just focused really on cybersecurity probably for a good 7 or 8 years, but I've been in IT and technology for well over 20. I'm currently one of the executive directors for Optiv Security in the office of the CISO, and what we do is we go around and visit client companies and help them with their security strategy and assess their programs and try to help them get better at doing security, which everybody can always get better, and we certainly need that. So it's a lot of fun, and I am in Austin, Texas this week, the client site. So coming to you live from here. So that's me.
Thanks so much, Rich. You've been kind of bopping around everywhere lately, haven't you?
Well, recently it's really just between my home in Florida and Austin, Texas. This is probably a 3 to 4 month engagement, so I'll just be going back and forth to here. But yeah, I pretty much go wherever they need me.
Great. Well, I know we had a question earlier. If you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask that question, I believe it was regarding the A+ certification. You're still listening. Minachim, I believe.
Yes, hello?
Yes, hello, Menachem, how are you?
Great. I wanted to ask about the A+ certification. It's more basic than the security class, but I wanted to know if that's something that you recommend focusing on for for the future, to have it on the resume, and as far as employment, if it's important to have this certification.
And I'm sorry, which certification was that?
A+.
The A+ certification. So I'm gonna have to go.
Rich, it looks like we might have just lost you for your connection for a second. We have you paused.
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah, I think we're just grabbing Rich's signal. While he's taking the time to kind of bring himself back from that maybe technical error, does anyone else have any questions that we can answer while he's looking that up, that we could have a question or anything regarding cybersecurity in general?
I probably will have a question. I'm just kind of listening now. I'll have some questions at some point.
Great. Yeah, we appreciate that. I'm sure Rich is just having a couple technical errors and he'll jump on. These things can happen, especially when we're all online, kind of using different Wi-Fi's and devices. So hopefully he can join us in a couple seconds. But yeah, today's office hour is just going to be more of a question and answer format. So yeah, I know in the past we've had students who might be asking specific questions about the course and the content, the curriculum. Others might just want to have questions regarding interviews. What are you looking for, in your next cybersecurity employee, and those types of questions. So feel free, for those of you just kind of waiting for him to join us, to jot down any questions that you might have. Or yeah, like just brainstorm for a little bit. Or if it's a question related to Springboard or our content, I can kind of try and take a stab at it as well. So it seems like we might have lost Rich for a little bit. Does anyone want to ask a content question and maybe see if anyone else in the course might have a similar question or might be struggling with any of the similar things?
I just finished up section 3, architecture and design. It was quite lengthy, which, you know, is fine. I mean, it was just a lot of, obviously, I mean, it was a lot of information. I think I'm kind of like excited to get started with the labs because, I mean, you can learn content all day, but, you know, when you're actually, I guess, you know, you can actually start seeing stuff and practicing, I guess, what you've learned. I mean, I think that makes a big difference, or it should make a big difference. So, I mean, I'm okay with the information so far. It's just a lot, but, I mean, I kind of expected that anyway.
No, definitely. And I think kind of like you were saying, you can kind of passively learn these things by listening and by reading the different course units, but
Right.
applying them is a different thing completely. And that's kind of when you're actively learning and kind of bridging those gaps.
Right. Right. I guess, yeah, so I watched the session today, or probably about an hour ago before I joined you guys from last week. So, I mean, essentially my background is I've been teaching for like 15 years. I taught high school for 5 years, the last 10 in college. Right now I'm online teaching. So for me, it's, you know, a career change. And it's, you know, I mean, I always like learning, but, you know, at the same time, it's like, I don't obviously have a background in IT or cybersecurity or anything. So I guess my question would be is, I mean, I guess in your experience is it that big of a deal not to have a background and, you know, essentially to be making a career change?
Yeah, great question, Brian. Thanks for asking that. I think a lot of our students actually come to Springboard to change careers or to, you know, skill up in their current job. So I think that's not uncommon. And something that I know Rich said last week that I really agreed with is a lot of times people from other professions or completely different backgrounds in general are really able to apply that to their new careers in ways that people who might have been in that exact same you know, pipeline their whole life would not have those experiences. So I think, I don't know, and especially coming from what you were saying, I was also in education before this as well. Before yeah. I taught at a bilingual school for 3 years, and my whole career, professional background is in education. So I think it was challenging for me too to kind of switch careers and to come to something a little more technical or a little more business oriented. But I think that what I have and what my background has really allowed me to apply that to my current job and kind of come at my current job with a couple new ideas or different preferences than most other people in our company would have. So I definitely think it's possible, and I think Rich can speak to that as well if and when his computer starts.
I made it back. I'm on my phone. Yeah, the hotel Wi-Fi just went down. I'm like, well, is it just my computer? But I got 2 computers in here and a phone, and neither of them will connect. So yeah, that's bad timing. That was terrible.
Got it. Yeah, we were kind of bridging questions. So our first initial question still applies. So if you were able to get some information on that, we can touch base on that in a second. But Brian did also ask a follow-up kind of different question that connected with what we talked about a little bit last week, Rich, which was if you don't come from the cybersecurity background, is that kind of a make or break? And can they apply what they've done in their past to cybersecurity now? So kind of two-part question, and Bill, dive into those questions in whichever order you prefer.
Yeah, so the first question was about A+ certification, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I as a hiring manager over the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, I've never looked for an A+ certification. Now, I believe that any education then certification is beneficial just for your own personal knowledge. I think as a job seeker, if you're completely entry level getting into IT, it might be something that helps. But I think specific for someone getting into entry level cybersecurity, career. Me personally, I wouldn't look for an A+ certification. Does it hurt? No, absolutely not. It doesn't hurt at all. But if you don't have it, I don't, unless you really want to get the knowledge out of that certification, I wouldn't see a whole lot of value in it as an employer or as potential employer hiring someone. Again, more knowledge doesn't hurt, but if you don't have it, I wouldn't go get it just to work in cybersecurity. Okay, and then so going to the second question, which is, okay, if you don't have a security background, well, let me just tell you, I've been doing this long enough to where there was no security back then. There was no internet back then. We were using dial-up and using computer bulletin board services and things like that. So there was no security. So I had no security background. I came up in the networking and system administration role within IT, and security came along, and I just started getting into security and doing it kind of organically that way. These days, you can come from any field here, and I always say this: if you have a strong desire to learn cybersecurity, and you have good, communication skills, and you've got analytical ability and problem-solving ability, and you really want to do cybersecurity, I would hire you if I need an entry-level person, and they've got that skill, that's those softer skills or the problem-solving ability, and you really want to learn security, sure, I'm interested in talking to people, especially if they've gone through something like this and they've gotten their certification and they've done a capstone project and they've shown that they have the ability to do this stuff. Yeah, I'm totally interested. Even if you have no prior job experience, if you have a degree in psychology or marketing, that doesn't matter to me. A degree is a degree as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't have to be a technology degree. And you don't have to have previous IT experience. It certainly helps, but in this day and age, we have a lot of unopened jobs out there and a lack of qualified people to fill them. So I'm always going to be looking for people that, again, have the strong desire to be a cybersecurity practitioner, and that have those skills that I think are necessary in an analyst type of position. So, yeah, that's why, we have, you see a lot of students from Springboard that don't come from IT backgrounds, and, there's no reason you can't be successful without an IT background in security. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And Rich, so that was kind of basically what I had said right before you jumped on as well. And I think something that we were saying yesterday really last week, really parallels well with our topic last week, because everyone kind of brings their own flavor and their own background and experiences into a job. And I think especially, like you were saying, the soft skills, Brian before mentioned that he was in education, which possesses many of those soft skills that you're looking for. And I think a lot of the times how effectively and confidently you can communicate the information that you are, you're learning and you're receiving to your employer. I think that's honestly one of the best skills, especially in
yeah, and the further you advance in your career in cybersecurity, depending on where you go, that ability to communicate becomes even more and more important as you're trying to, if you have a communication skills, right? If you have soft skills and people skills as well, because even in this day of emails and instant messaging and conference calls and things like that, being able to communicate with people face to face and being able to put complex concepts and issues into layman's terms is important, especially as you grow into leadership positions and you're dealing more at the management level and leadership level than at the technical level. Now, you might not want to do that, and that's cool too. But even being able to, even if you're you go and say you want to be a hacker and you want to be really technical and be on the command line all the time, even being able to take those kind of results and communicate those to your client or your manager in terms that, because hacking is pretty technical. There's some pretty technical stuff when you get in there and start hacking those systems. Being able to kind of explain in more general layman's terms via those communication skills what you've done, that's really important stuff.
Exactly. Thanks for that question, Brian. And I see Elizabeth, you're also joining us today. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask Rich while we have the time? I mean, again, it can be content questions, it can be questions just regarding cybersecurity in general, but we'd love to answer any questions right
I actually want to ask something. Thank you for the answer about the A+. I was wondering about Security Plus versus CCNA.
Security Plus versus CCNA. Okay. So if the CCNA hasn't changed, and I think I might have got my internet connection back here. I'll stay on the phone. So if the CCNA hasn't changed, when I did it way back in the day, that was a Cisco specific certification. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes,
So
that's right.
Certified Network Administrator?
Yeah, they actually have also something that it's called CCNA Security.
Oh, they do? Okay, so that's new. Yeah, back they didn't have that when I was doing that. So I'm not that familiar with the CCNA security cert, so I really can't answer that. So security, I'll just give you my general feeling about it. CCNA security is going to be very focused on the Cisco technology stack, would be my guess. So it's going to be more of a very vendor-specific cert, which is going to teach you how to, properly secure routers and switches and ASA firewalls and things like that. That's what would be my guess, and I haven't looked into the cert. Whereas Security Plus is going to give you a vendor-neutral security, general security focus and background and foundation in security. So that would be my guess. Would be the difference.
Thank you.
Excellent. What else? What other questions do you guys have? We're here for at least 10 more minutes. So whatever you got.
Okay, I have a question. So I think maybe this was mentioned in another session, but at some point, I think, won't we, throughout, I guess, the course, gravitate towards, I guess, an area that, we're excited about or that we want to explore further? I don't think I'm there yet. I just completed architecture and design. So I guess my question is, at some point we'll gravitate towards some, I guess, area in cybersecurity?
Sure. Well, and I say you may and you may not. I mean, and it may not. Maybe gravitate is the wrong word there, but there might be. What you might have is just a general. It might be easier to learn certain concepts than others. So when you look at an architecture, security architecture diagram, and you say, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense," and I can see how the pieces and all fit together and create a comprehensive security architecture, and that's really interesting to me. You'll just kind of have a general feeling that that's easy for you to absorb and understand, whereas other concepts just might not be so easy. Maybe you don't get into risk management or, being on the command line and doing hacking. That command line stuff is just so technical that you just, it's hard. You get through it, but it's hard, and you just don't see yourself wanting to do that. And that's kind of what I mean, when I say gravitate. And so, you may find, you enjoyed it a little bit and you want to do that for a while, but then at some point you might say, well, this has been fun, but hey, now that, we're doing a compliance effort at work, or I see people looking for compliance folks, and that sounds really interesting. So, and frankly, I've done that throughout my entire career. I've done a certain thing for a number of years. I mean, I've served in a lot of different roles. I was a programmer. I was a system admin. I was a network engineer. I was a network manager. Then I got into leadership, and I've done network architecture. And for me, it's always been, I don't know if I just get bored or what it is, but I'll find that I do something for a while. And I'm like, well, I've done that. What's next? It's just what can I learn? What can I do to grow my skills? I always feel like I need to be constantly learning something. Or doing something new to keep me really interested in my job. So for me, that's just kind of how it's worked out. And, I can, I've done my share of technical stuff, and like I said, I was a Cisco network engineer and a programmer. So believe me, I can sit and stare at a screen and write code for hours and hours, and if I'm really interested in producing some kind of code or result. But after a while, I'd say, well, I've kind of been there, done that. What's next? And hey, so I got to work in compliance for a number of years, and then I got to work in risk management for a number of years, and now I'm in leadership and doing security strategy. And so yeah, I mean, I just kind of go with what my interests are, and they do change over time. And you might find that too, that coming out of this course and going through the capstone and everything else, that you find, hey, I really want to do vulnerability management, for example. And it's really cool discovering vulnerabilities on machines and going through and remediating them and looking at the reports and going through that. And then, you might do that for a while and say, well, hey, based on that, hacking looks cool now. So that's just kind of how it works in this field for me. I don't think you're gonna come out of this and get into a cybersecurity career and just do one thing. Just say, well, I'm just going to do vulnerability management, or I'm just going to be this kind of practitioner. You very well might do that. There are people that are certified ethical hackers and they love hacking, and that's what they do their whole lives, and that's fine too. But I think you'll find something that really interests you, and you'll do it, and that's just what you want to do, or you'll want to go in a bunch of different directions just to keep your juices flowing and keep learning.
Okay. Thank you.
I wanted to ask. Oh, sorry.
Please, no, I was just going to throw in for more questions. Great.
I wanted to ask about potentially doing it part-time, if that's still possible, or it's something that I have to do full-time. I have a job. I'm also a teacher, by the way. And I'm right now teaching part-time high school students. And so does it mean I have to give up my job, or could I keep doing that and then also do cybersecurity part-time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd say they're probably. I got to think about this for a little bit. Most of the jobs I look at and that I'm seeing out there are full-time positions. Just because it's there's such a shortage of people in security, and there's so many jobs that people aren't looking for parts. They really need full-time people to work 40 hours a week. It's probably imaginable that you could find part-time work. I haven't looked, honestly, but I wouldn't say it's out of the question. I think you just have to look. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I just haven't looked at the job market for part-time security help. But I'm sure there's some company might have a need for someone to. I'm trying to think of the potential opportunities. I mean, if you're security architecture, you typically need those folks on time or full time on staff. But for SOC analysts or something like so, security operations center analysts, they may have a need for just some part-time help because it's a managed services company. They're doing SOC work 24/7 for companies, and they kind of have an influx of business, but they don't know if it's long term, and so they just need some additional help at the SOC. So it's a possibility. Again, I haven't really looked at the job market, and I haven't personally looked for part-time help in any roles that I've filled in the past, but I don't think it's out of the question. So you just have to look.
And what about doing projects? Let's say working whenever something comes up, versus, for me, I think I would prefer working not like a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week regular job, more like going once or twice a week, even for a full day, for a project. How would that work?
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. I think you could find it's so. And the question I think you have to ask is, do you want to work? So you still want to work your teaching job or whatever, but you want to work in security. The question just is, do you want to work 40 hours a week? And so it's not a full-time job. So the couple angles I'm looking at here is you'll find companies that want full-time people, but they have flexible work arrangements. So and in really progressive companies that they don't even care what hours of the day you work. So you might find something like that. And that's probably kind of rare. But from a contract or like a project-based assignment, you might find where there's flexible schedules around project-based work. you might find companies out there that are consulting firms or staff augmentation firms that will say, hey, we've got a client, they're looking for an analyst and they only need them for 3 months. It's a project-based work, so it's like 3 months, either the project will be extended or maybe it's a 3-month contract to hire type position. There's plenty of that kind of thing out there where it's just temporary project-based work. Now, is it part-time? That's kind of, again, I think that's probably harder to find, because typically it's if it's like a 3 or 6 month contract kind of a thing, it'll be a full-time job for that amount of time, where they are kind of expecting to work 40 hours a week. Some of it may not be in the office. It might be a complete remote job where you get to work out of your house and kind of set your hours a little bit. And sometimes you'll have flexibility in what hours of the day you work, depending on the role. In other cases, they'll say, well, it's remote, you can work from your home, but our normal business hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time or Central or whatever it is. So I think it's a matter of just really scouring and searching the job market to try to find the right opportunity in that situation.
Thank you. And what about those people from third world countries, India, and so on, and they have skills also for security, and they're able to do it for a fraction of the price? You see, it's a threat to somebody who is here from the U.S. and looking to want to charge much more, obviously.
I wouldn't see it as a threat. I'd see it as just a way that it's a way that companies kind of follow this as they need services. For example, managed security service providers who are providing 24/7 monitoring for people. They build out their security operations centers, and what they'll do is to do 24/7, 365. If you have a company that is a global company, they'll want that service globally. So they'll put a SOC in North America, they'll put one in the Middle East, or they'll put one in Europe, or they'll put one in Asia, and they'll staff those with people from all over the world so that they can follow the sun as a global company needs to, and make sure that they got that 24/7 coverage. So I wouldn't necessarily see it as a threat. You see it more in development environments. We get a lot of offshore developers and a lot of offshore help desk type of folks working in India and in Asian countries. But in security, you don't really see it in the security field, where you're seeing a lot of offshoring of labor in cybersecurity. You'll have different, like I said, different cybersecurity functions in different areas of the world, but you don't really see people offshoring cybersecurity work in the U.S. At least I haven't seen it.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you again, guys, for kind of coming in at the last minute and asking some questions. We are at time, so I do want to respect our hosts, Rich, time, and all of your time as well, because I do know we designate a certain amount of time to office hours each week, and we don't want to take time over too much. But thanks again so much for joining us. I know Rich and I both really appreciate it. And in the following weeks, you guys will have Hallie, your student advisor, back, but I will miss you. And yeah, I think a lot of us learned a lot today. So thanks so much for Rich for joining us. Really, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I hope it was helpful. And thanks for being our guest host. I'll miss you. Hopefully we'll get to see you again someday soon.
Yeah, definitely. Love hosting these, so anytime. But I'm going to go ahead and type my email in here if anyone has any immediate questions about cybersecurity, anything regarding billing, logistical issues. Feel free to contact me at molly@springboard.com. Otherwise, yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be posting these online and then in your Slack channel as well very soon. So thanks to everyone again who joined. Thanks to Rich, and have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.